Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Rovers Report, where once again you join us after another great victory. Bristol Rovers won 4-1 away at Cheltenham Town yesterday, and tell you what, Tom, it's another good performance, isn't it, mate?
It is indeed, mate, and three on the bounce as well, and a 9 point week, as all the players have been saying on social media. So it's very pleasing, and it's certainly an upturn in fortune before some tough fixtures in the next couple of weeks. So credit goes to Barton and the team, and we're sitting mid-table quite comfortably, I
Mm.
guess. So it has come to show that players returning from injury has made a huge difference, and so I'm eating a little bit of humble pie, I'll have to say.
Yeah, I think you and a lot of Rovers fans, probably myself included, to be honest, mate. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I just think it probably is what Barton said, is that when a few of the players come back, get a bit of luck. That game against MK Dons, we definitely deserve to win it, but on another day we don't get that penalty, and they might nick a goal or something like that. So yeah, everything seems to be going in our favour at the minute. But I guess let's start with the man of the moment, Aaron Collins. I think he's now on 8 goals and 7 assists.
Indeed, mate.
So he's absolutely flying at the minute. Barton sort of he put the idea that there's a possibility he could be playing for Wales at the World Cup. I just think he just seems to have a huge amount of confidence at the moment, doesn't he? And everything he touched seems to turn to goals. So yeah, I think because I was looking at the Welsh squad earlier today, and there's a few players that you've got Kiefer Moore, who he's not going to displace, I don't think. Tyler Roberts, Daniel James, and Bale, and Mark Harris for me is the one where you think maybe he could actually get on that plane to Qatar. So, what do you think about it, mate?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an outside bet, but I mean, why not? As you said, he seems to have a bit of a Midas touch at the moment.
Mm.
I don't think his form can really be ignored by Rob Page in the Welsh setup. So, I mean, I don't know if they're selecting a sort of preliminary squad before the actual full squad announcement. So,
Mm.
I think he's got an outside chance of getting in. But I'd as a Rovers fan, being slightly selfish, we'd obviously want him to be playing during that period. So it would be an interesting one to watch over the next couple of weeks because certainly he is on absolute flames this season. So I think everything. I mean, he always had the talent. We could see it. It's a sort of Matty Taylor situation, don't you think, in terms of the
Mm.
very, very slow start in terms of goals and output. But when you get running and get going, you don't look back, and it seems to be a sort of similar tale. Hopefully, not with a similar ending. I have to say.
Like, judging on his character, he doesn't seem like the type of player that would do something like that. I don't know if I,
Yeah,
I could deal with that again, to be honest, mate. But I think a lot of the reason for his success has to go to Joe Barton. You have to give him credit for it because especially this season, he's been thriving in that role where I think essentially what Barton would have said to him is that as long as you're pressing, be disciplined, but also he's given him the freedom to sort of roam, hasn't he?
yeah.
Against Cambridge, I saw him he was out on the wing, and then obviously against Cheltenham, he played more of a central role in behind Lofty, and yeah, I just think that's probably one of the reasons why he's performing so well is that in his head he thinks, I can take these risks, and I know the manager's not going to be on me because he's proven that he's got the quality, and he might have one bad game or something might not come off for him, but yeah, like we said, he seems to have the Midas touch, and I just wonder for you, mates, where do you think the ceiling for him is? Because he's still relatively young, and we've had a lot of players like him who have sort of gone on. You think of Billy Bowden, to an extent, Matty Taylor they do make that step up from where we were in League One, and then it doesn't really work for them. But yeah, I'm just curious as to what you think his ceiling is footballing wise.
I mean, we've seen someone who scored a hatful of goals last season in League One in Scott Twine, who went to a team that are currently top of the Championship. I'm not sure how often he's playing for Burnley. He certainly
Mm.
was signed as they're going to be their number nine. I don't see why he couldn't do something similar if Collins were to sort of score 20 odd goals and get 10 assists. So I think most definitely mid-table championship. The guy's still only 25 or so.
Mm.
He's yet to reach his peak technically. So I think I think, it's obviously hard to call because I would have said the same about Matty Taylor playing top end of Championship and he didn't.
Mm.
There were obviously a few reasons for that, but we won't go into them in too much detail. I think Collins certainly can be playing in the Championship next season, and probably towards the top end if he carries on developing like this. To be honest, I think maybe someone in the mould of Scott Twine is someone who we should be aiming to sort of look towards.
Yeah, to try and emulate it.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what I'd say. And just talking of ceilings, I feel so fickle as a Rovers fan because one week it's sort of doom and gloom, and I'm going to say it now because I'm not suggesting in any way that we're going to go up. But what do you think the ceiling is? I know on the forum they call it. I think it's the groundbreaking goal they call it, and they often give options of sort of where you think we're going to finish. I mean, one thing we do have to consider is the last three games we've won have been against poorer opposition, and I think these next three games are really going to tell us whereabouts we sit within this pack. Because I think it's Plymouth, Derby, and Sheffield Wednesday, and it's two tricky away games. Plymouth are absolutely flying, so yeah, I think if we come through them with 3 or 4 points, we can probably sort of have a bit of a hope of an outside shot at the playoffs. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and being fickle, as I say. But do you think there's any truth to that, or?
I think there's a slim chance of it. If we were to sort of come out with a few points from these games, we could sort of go on with confidence for the rest of the season. I don't like the way we've previously approached bigger games this season. I think, as I've mentioned before on the channels, it seems to be a bit of a self-victimization process going on. So it'll be interesting to see how we set up. And for me, that would be playing four at the back and three midfield, three up top, or including two wingers. So I think if we set up positively against these teams, and that gives ourselves a chance of winning, I think there's still a very slim chance. But yeah, if we were to pick up a few points, that would maybe give us some confidence. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't think so. Obviously, Argyle are flying at the moment. I think we can maybe nick a point from them at home. But I think Wendy and Derby away, perhaps maybe we could pick up something at Pride Park. But I'm not too confident going to Hillsborough at the moment. I think naturally, talking about ceilings, I think mid-table is probably about right for this season. I think a playoff push is still a slim chance, and it was only a couple of weeks ago that we were, I think, maybe second bottom. So it's still very early days, and I think on a balance of play, we'll probably finish mid-table, which I would actually take. In our first season back in League One, I think you can see the foundations that Barton's trying to build. We'll have a couple of players perhaps moving on due to age, and some like Collins, just because they'll probably be too good for us. But also, I think just generally mid-table sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest, mate. So the thing for me, which I can accept if we finish mid-table-ish, because to Barton's credit, the football we play is good football and it's exciting football, isn't it? You want to go down to the Mem and you want to be watching this. And in years gone by, you've had managers which sometimes they're successful, but most of the time it's been poor football and without the results either. So it's just quite refreshing to have a manager that's actively trying to play positive front foot football. And it does bring these sort of results. Last season we had quite a few games where we're scoring a hell of a lot of goals, creating opportunities. And I'm really a fan of the formation that we're playing at the moment. So I think when you've got, I know on Saturday you didn't have Coburn on, but when you've got Lofty and Coburn up top, and then you've got Collins in behind that, it is a real mix. You've obviously got Collins' creativity, his flair, his speed, his agility, and then with Lofty and Coburn, they're both, if they want to be and they need to be, both physical presences. But both of them are quick on their feet. Lofty, I think, he's actually a very intelligent player, Lofty. I don't think people give him enough credit for that. And I just think the system's working really well. And it will be interesting to see when Connolly comes back, if he wants to switch it around to a three. Maybe Barton sees something in there, which he thinks we can, and I think he's mentioned it before, we can step up another gear. But I would be tempted just to leave it at the minute, to be honest. We're playing fantastically well. Maybe against someone like a Wednesday or something like that, we're going to have to be a bit more pragmatic. But yeah, I just think the system's working really well at the moment.
I think perhaps, yeah, as you said, the 3-4-3 will come back into play for the tough fixture away at Hillsborough,
Mm,
and at times obviously quite well with Beefy returning from injury. So yeah, I think Bard has spoken about the 3-4-3 being the longer term sort of equilibrium of formations. So I think we'll probably see that return throughout the season. But as you said, it seems to be a winning formula, the 4-3-3 at the moment, whether that's 4-3-1-2 with Collins being the one, or
mm,
4-3-3 with two wingers and three up front. So I think it's an interesting one. I think definitely at home against Argyle, we should be playing forward at the back.
mm.
But I can see Barton bringing the 3-4-3 back for Wendy, which I think would make sense, to be honest. I know I mentioned about sort of setting up in attacking formation, but that's me getting ahead of myself. I can see us definitely playing three at five effectively at the back with wing backs against Wendy. It will be interesting because obviously Thomas and Gibson seem to be doing very well.
Mm.
Are very unlucky for us to concede a penalty. Obviously, it was a blatant penalty, but um, I think it seems to be working, and it might be tough for Beefy to come back and start against Argyle next weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that is actually another nice thing about the squad that he's assembled is that now we can be pragmatic. So I know what you're saying about wanting to go and take it to the bigger teams, but there's no reason you're not able to do that with a three at the back. It just means that you're being a bit smarter, isn't it? It's sort of, we're going to attack in a different way. We're not going to be so gung ho. But you've seen Barton do it in many games now. Is he'll bring off one of the centre mids, bring on a centre back, swap it to three at the backs for a bit more defensive stability. And it's quite clever, to be honest. And it does allow us, we haven't seen the best of Jasper. So, at some point in this season, we could potentially look at a more traditional 4-3-3, where you're going to have wingers, Collins can fill in there. Maka can fill in there. Not sure you'd want to put him in there necessarily. Still haven't seen probably the best of Harry Anderson. As we've said, mate, now the players are starting to come back. There is real options all over the pitch, with perhaps the exception of left back maybe. But I think for the minute, just everything seems to be going right for us, and the confidence seems to be high. The morale seems to be brilliant in there. So yeah, let's just take a little look ahead to the next three games, then I guess, because like you said, we've got Plymouth on Saturday, then we've got Wendy the Wednesday afterwards, and then we've got Derby on the weekend after that. What are your expectations for it?
It's a tough one because Argyle are obviously flying, but I'm also confident at home. I can see us drawing that maybe 1-1 or
Mm,
2-2. Wendy away, I'm not confident. I can't see us getting anything there, but Derby away, I think we can maybe nick a point, or even went there recently and won, who were before yesterday in a similar position to us in the table. So there's no reason why we can't pick up or try to pick up 4 points from that block of fixtures. But at the same time, it's going to be incredibly tough
mm,
because obviously Argyle are flying. Finn Azaz is, on absolute flames. It's a shame that we didn't sign him. I don't know whether we were ever in for him, but he was definitely on a sort of watch list for
mm.
me after his performances last season at Newport. So, yeah, I think I'd say we should hope for 4 points out of the nine.
Mhm.
I can only see us maybe getting a couple, if I'm being honest with you. But that's being me being a natural pessimist.
Yeah, no, mate, I think I'm the same to be honest. For some reason, I have something within me. I fancy us to get 3 points at Pride Park. I just think, we're going to be backed by probably a sellout Rovers crowd. They're a bit down on their luck. And I just think the only problem with that maybe is if Derby was our next game, then I could see us getting a win then. But by that point, we may have two losses, and it's sort of not back to square one. But you know what I mean? It's sort of you got to rebuild the players' confidence. I
Mm.
think I think Plymouth for me is the one which you've got to look at and think we can definitely get something out of that one, just because back by the home crowd. I know they're absolutely flying, but we've got to build on the confidence. If we lose to Plymouth, and I could probably see it being 0 points out of the nine, but with the way we're playing at the minute, I think anything could happen, mate.
It's a cup final next weekend as well. Plymouth Argyle's FA Cup final, Rovers away, isn't it?
You had to drop that in there, didn't you?
So
We'll see if Pieface will be
yeah,
around.
well, it seems I've always found it quite funny considering it takes a shorter time to travel to London from Bristol than it does to Plymouth. But for some reason, they seem to think it's a bit of a derby. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Two fairly large clubs in League One, so yeah, no respect to them. Obviously, is it Schumacher's their
Yeah,
manager is doing a great job,
it's,
taking over from Ryan Lowe, and as I said, Finazar seems to be pulling strings in midfield. So it would be an incredibly tough game, but at the Mem, it's always quite a good encounter against them. So as I said, my prediction would be to get a point from that, but there's no reason why we can't be looking to get three.
yeah, I agree, mate. For you guys watching, just let us know down in the comments below how many points you think will accrue from those three games. If we just finish on this one, mate, Rovers announced today that Kevin Bond has left. Now, I think you wanted to speak a bit on this, mate, didn't you? Just sort of what you feel about his time here, and why you think he may have left.
Yeah, of course, mate. It was a bit of an odd one because he hadn't been in the dugout for the last few weeks. I think I read somewhere.
Mm,
He was obviously a quite calming influence. I felt, there was definitely a change in results after he came in last year. I
mm,
think it was around sort of end of September time. And he's obviously very experienced assistant manager. He had been an assistant in the Premier League and in the Championship. So it's a bit of an odd one. I haven't actually read the official statement, but it seems to,
There,
yeah, it's a
there,
bit odd.
there wasn't much within the statement, mate, to be honest.
Yeah,
We sort of, your generic thank yous and we wish him well in the future. And then like a little bit about the time when he joined and endured some difficult times. But yes, there didn't seem to be too much outrage from it from any of our fans, I don't think.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's an odd one, mate. It'll be interesting to see if we ever really find out what actually happened. But I guess Barton still has the rest of his backroom staff in place. We've got Mangan. I can't remember the other. Is it Mazier? Is
Mm.
one of Scousers. Jennings is now officially director of football.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was a Barton appointment anyway, Kevin Bond. But whether there was just a mutual parting of ways is I don't know. Maybe that's what's happened, but I think obviously Rovers fans have to thank Kevin Bond for being there during what was ultimately successful season and an uptick in fortune since after he joined. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here actually, because he's obviously fairly old now.
Mm.
Whether he takes another job in a football league or perhaps moves further down. I'm not sure, but it was. I think it'd been coming because he hadn't been on the bench for a while.
Mm.
So obviously respect to him for what he did at Rovers, and hopefully we'll see him in another dugout soon.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think that'll probably wrap it up for tonight, to be honest. We'll have some more videos coming out this week, which I look forward to. Hopefully, we'll be recording after another victory, mate. But for now, that'll be everything. If you guys have enjoyed it, give it a like, and we'll see you later.
Cheers, guys.